And we're going to explore stories of people from Africa and people from the diaspora.
Okay.
And the reason we've chosen to go through the center of the city is because it's really important to know that even in the oldest parts of the city, there are all these connections to African history.
Wow.
So some of the people will talk. So our belief is that you learn more about history by learning about people and telling the stories of people. So each stop is going to be a person. Sorry. No, it's okay. Are we okay?
It's okay.
A picture?
Yeah.
Feel free to walk with me. I'm happy to point out stuff as we go.
Okay.
And I'm happy, so I'm trying to tell a story about these people.
Yeah.
When the story's over, I'm going to ask you if you have any questions or responses.
Yeah.
Please jump in. I've already found out a bunch of connections to
Really?
the story that we're talking about. So please jump in. Please, like, I would love for us to share with each other these stories.
Yeah.
So we're going to start by walking down the Zeewijd, Café Casablanca. Normally I start tours with kind of a running overview of Amsterdam, but I kind of assume you guys all know when and where we are. I can show you the maps if you like, but I kind of assume you guys... Yeah, you're all Amsterdam.
Yeah, indeed.
Exactly. And just, I think you guys all know this as well, but just to reiterate, so we're talking today mostly about people affected by the West India Company. So the West India Company went down to Elmina, which is in modern day Ghana, and...
I think, I don't know whether everybody's following you, so maybe...
It's okay.
Is there like...
Stop talking. Stop talking.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
This is history, you know, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page because sometimes there's questions and I realize, oh, I should have said that at the beginning. So just to be clear, we're talking about people primarily affected by the West India Company, which fought the Portuguese in modern day Elmina, modern day Ghana. That's going to come up later, which is the only reason I bring up Portuguese. And took enslaved Africans to not only the Dutch Caribbean, but also to the U.S. You can hear from my accent where I'm from.
Yeah,
and
indeed.
if you go to the Black History Museum in D.C. and you look at the slave ship register, there's Dutch name after Dutch name on the register. So it's not just the Dutch Caribbean.
Yeah.
Still go there.
Why do you think I'm here?
I'm so happy that I went. I'm so happy that I went. Because I'm sure that they're going to take all the stuff.
I'm really...
No. Excuse me. This is happening now.
No. Okay.
Change of the type of the grannies. It will all be gone. Anyways.
We will talk a little bit about a couple people from South Africa, so at that point I do have to point out we're also talking about people affected by the Dutch East India Company, which went down to South Africa and colonized as a part of a refueling stop to go to refueling, but getting supplies to go to Indonesia. We're all on the same page about that?
Yeah.
Cool, so let's go. So really, the Dutch colony was really like around Cape Town.
Cape Town,
Ghana, from Ghana.
No, that's the West India Company. That's the West India Company. That's Elmina, that's the West India Company. So I'm also talking about South Africa, the country. I'm going to talk about someone from South Africa. So I just want to make clear, he was affected by the remnants of the East India Company. All right, let's go to Paramount.
So we are on the tour, heritage tour this morning, 20th of September.
I did a tour on Tuesday where I shared the umbrella with someone, so.
I'm our future buyer.
I mean, I have this whole picture of him. But really, you guys can look at him on the window. You didn't even need my picture of him, right? Dynamite. So he was born, and this is coming from things he said in later interviews. So just know this is, we all do a little bit of myth making with our childhood. So this is what Kid said as an adult when he was talking about his childhood. So he's described growing up really, really isolated. He said that, as you may know, after slavery, some of the families took the old cabins and turned them into kind of self-sustaining farms, and he grew up in one of those. And he talked about just a week full of hard work and isolation, and then these Sundays were this huge bright spot in his life, because Sunday was church, and church meant music. Exactly. He talked about a day full of music. And when he was 17, he just went to go find more music. So he and his friends, so first he snuck to Paramaribo. And then he and his friends snuck onto a boat. They actually made it all the way to Amsterdam.
Stowaway.
Exactly. They stowed away. I know, right? He actually started in the circus as a fire eater. That's where Kid Dynamite comes from. Do you know what I mean? Where they would.
He was one of the first in Amsterdam.
I don't know how. I couldn't do it. That's so impressive. But so he was. Let's make sure we don't get that guy's way. So he was a fire eater. That's where Kid Dynamite came from. He also was like one of those like autodidacts. Like he could learn any instrument. It was like, I think I'll try this one. A week later, he's a master.
Wow.
So he learned instrument after instrument. And he had a really successful career. And then the Nazis invaded. And he stayed. And he was able to survive by doing these kind of secret concerts. So we don't know exactly where. We know that there were house concerts. We know there was a concert that someone else I talked about on a different tour, Frida Infante, she actually did a concert in the Rijksmuseum. I'm really hoping, I can't prove it, but I want Kid to have been part of that concert as well. Like in the empty Rijksmuseum. I'm sorry? No, unfortunately, well, I'm getting it. So after the war, he basically was in residency here, which is why, it was a short time, right? Because he died in a car accident. He was on tour in Germany and he died in a car accident in 1963. But he's remembered here, not just for his residency, but here's where he really came into his own in developing this style of like jazz and bebop that was really influenced. Finally, he was really able to pull the stuff from his childhood into modern music, and he called it Paramaribo. Right from Paramaribo.
Paramaribo.
Not Goma Paramaribo.
Yeah, it's bop.
Bop. And
Bop.
bop.
As in bebop.
Yeah. And he also used Suriname styles of influence in that. So
Yeah. So, any other questions? Or
Yeah, so
you all
Dancing this thing.
did you? Really? Yeah, I've heard that.
It was good. It was good.
Do you have
The
any
place to
stories?
be.
Elizabeth, I don't get a connection between him and Africa. I didn't.
Well, so like I said, we're going to talk about the diaspora as well.
Okay,
So,
but who is he actually? He's from. He says from.
he's from Suriname.
And-
So,
okay.
because his ancestors, so
Ancestors.
not families, parents' generation, but grandparents'
But, yeah,
generation
indeed.
were enslaved.
Okay.
So part of what we're talking about African people directly from Africa.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're also talking about people who were taken from Africa.
Yeah, correct.
And continue to influence the city. So
Yes.
there'll be some other people like
Like him, oh, okay.
who aren't directly from Africa.
Okay, got
And
it.
we're going to talk about some people directly from Africa as
Okay,
well.
cool.
Cool. Speaking of which, next up is Josephine Baker. So.
I know a lot about her. So
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say one more thing about Josephine Baker. As you brought up, she adopted children of all different backgrounds. She called it her Rainbow Tribe. She raised them in a castle together.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the children, Cloud, was the person who wrote her biography. One of the things that I don't think we hear enough about is that Josephine Baker was one of only 2 women on the stage at the March on Washington where Martin Luther King speaks in the I Have a Dream speech.
Yeah.
And she was the only woman to speak. The other woman was Mahalia Jackson who sang.
also,
So there's a lot.
and we don't celebrate women like this.
No.
That's recommended.
I've never heard of her.
Sometimes she gets reduced to her role as a dancer. Exactly. Sometimes she gets reduced to the kind of sexy, exotic dancing, and that is a small part of the life of a truly dynamic and fascinating woman.
This is so beautiful.
Of course.
Please, always.
Friends had a very in the mausoleum. I think 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah,
This is so beautiful.
A reburial with honor.
A rebellion in the mausoleum,
But all those are still in Luxembourg.
Really?
I want to say something to all of them.
Yeah.
There's a musical of
Ja, Josephine Baker. I go to town. Ja, we sing.
Really?
Ja,
Wow.
Josephine Baker, ja.
Okay.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Ja, woo.
I think during International Women's Day,
Yeah.
people like this will celebrate them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
If we stay like this, like I'm not caring about it.
For the first time,
I
yeah.
think for me, next time, I would like us to celebrate this
in a bigger way.
Yeah.
And I think
I would
she's
like-
still at the Versace Museum. I don't know. I
Because
haven't
there are so
checked,
many
but she
women
was
who
at
have-
the Versace Museum. I mean,
There are so
there was
many
mention
women
about her. Not her.
There are so many women who have done lots of things, and many people don't know about it.
Mostly from African heritage.
We got a lot more women to talk about.
Not that we need to celebrate it, have an evening where it's only women. And
Only
then,
women?
And then
Yeah.
we are men if you want. We celebrate something.
Yeah, I
You know,
agree.
Eat and drink and celebrate our heroes.
Yeah.
I can give you a bunch of women to celebrate.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I have
But
her.
let's, yeah, right? Let's keep walking. Sorry, go ahead.
One little thing, you have, you know, Denise Jana?
Yeah.
You can do a tour for Mahila Jackson.
Oh, nice.
Denise Jana.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I find, I have to tell you, so obviously you can tell I write.
Yeah.
And of all the people on the tour, he might be the person I'm the most jealous of. So he gets to he gets to the Netherlands and he starts writing. And this man wrote 130 books. I know, under different names. Albert Hellman is the most common one. And you guys probably know, but
Zsa
Zsa West was a huge template of things to come. Really inspired later writers. He also is one of the many people in my series of non-white people in the resistance that Dutch people don't know about. Like, you all study, apparently here you all study World War II for like all of your schooling, and yet a lot of people don't know about people like Albert Hellman. He was incredibly brave. So even though, as you know, the Nazis were specifically targeting intellectuals, people who weren't white, he took over the resistance paper of Kurt von der Veen when Kurt von der Veen was killed. He also, this is something that I think people don't give enough credit to, he also was part of a forgery group. And Group 2000, which was the big forgery group, the woman who ran it sometimes gets, sometimes gets dismissed as the ration card queen, is it von der Koningin? And I think that when people say things like that, it shows that they don't understand what was happening in the country, because the entire country was on rations. So even if you were a well-intentioned white Christian, you didn't have quite enough food for yourself, much less anyone you wanted to keep in hiding. So the ration cards that Lou was part of developing, those saved people's lives. Those were how people were able to stay in hiding.
Really?
Really important. And it's a part of the story that gets forgotten a lot. Another thing I found interesting about him, and you guys probably know this as well, but I'm going to repeat what I read, and you can tell me if you disagree with it. But one of the things that I read is that when he watched Indonesian independence, it prompted him to go back to Suriname because he wanted Suriname to be independent, and he was worried that the structures weren't in place yet for Suriname to function and thrive as an independent country. And so he ended up spending the next few decades trying to make that happen. He was one of the people that moved here after Dr. Sit's regime took over. And he did a lot of fundraising against Dr. Sit's regime from here. And the reason I bring that up, and again, I understand that, please.
What regime you said?
Can I say it?
Malta.
You can tell me if it's saying it.
You were right. I don't understand.
Very good. And I bring this up now because on our way to the next stop, we're about to pass the December Murders plaque. And the last time I was at the December Murders plaque, when I tell the story, I try to explain both sides, because I know that there are people who feel very strongly on both sides. And literally, as I was saying, of course, not everyone feels this way, and I was about to say the other side of the story, a woman passed me and said in a Surinamese accent, "Lies. Everything she's telling you is a lie." Yeah. So I just want to acknowledge that Lou's history overlaps a really complicated part of history, and I'm sure you guys have a much deeper knowledge and investment in it than I do. But I wanted to acknowledge that part of the story, and also to acknowledge what we're about to
If you
do.
don't have historical content on how things went and how in '75 Suriname got its independence, that the land, the ground, and everything in and on the ground was still from Holland.
Really?
If you don't understand the history about that and how the colonial structures are being held, because Bouterse was sent to Suriname in '73 to go upheld, because Nederland was afraid that there will be a riot amongst the different groups of people there. But they did the propaganda to fight people up to go against each other. That's why they sent Bouterse and from the Tris to Suriname in '72 and '73 and '74 to go there and see how it was. And then he stayed there for a long time, and then he saw from, hey, what the F is happening here? What am I doing as a Dutch military against my own people? And if you do not get the story in perspective of his story, people are always blabbing and taking on. And what I always say in my spoken word things, those 15 minutes, in every revolution you got people are killed like by the thousands.
Hey, I'm gonna correct you on this. I want to say one thing. I want to say one thing. The information about what happened in Suriname is behind the lock and key for 60 years. So if Holland didn't have a lot of, they say in Dutch, boter of zijn hoofd. Yeah, if that means like if they're not guilty, then if you're not guilty, you will say
information available.
And Suriname is the one country that doesn't exist in every list of murders, of genocide, of raping, and not in one list. Go and find and Google it, look up statistics. You cannot find Suriname. Nowhere.
Why?
In no list of wars, of
all kinds of
things against
against humanity, genocide and stuff.
Find Suriname nowhere.
So
And what you must understand,
you deny it.
in denial, but also the foundation of the December murders are founded by the Dutch government.
Amen.
People don't know those things.
Wow.
Connect it, because what I come for is because of the relationship between the Netherlands and the Africans. But all the presentation you are making, there's no connection that has connected any of the African countries with all these people you are showing. Because what I wanted to hear is that this person did this here in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and likewise maybe in Togo, or maybe in Namibia, or maybe in Nigeria, that this is the connection between an African and that person. So that I can see
The connection,
the connection
very important.
between there and here.
I understand, but this is something that is kept. There was no records of when the Dutch and the Portuguese and all those European and their powers took the people from Africa. They didn't make record from where they're from to divide everybody. That's why we don't know the connection. We know we are from the soil. We understand we are from the soil, but we have no connection with where we're from. And that is why it's difficult for people from the continent themselves and people from the diaspora to understand what is our connection. Our connection is in the spiritual line. Then we must looking for that we are all African from the soil. And no matter how many generations.
Those people are Africans.
Yeah.
They're not from Suriname. They are Africans.
That is what
And a
I
lot of them, for instance, if you go to New York, they would have behind their name, for instance, Jacoba de Angola or Jacoba de Elmina. They had the names. They had the names, but when our ancestors came from Africa, they didn't have that, and they was making sure that the people were mixed up because they don't want people from the Gold Coast to meet people from the Gold Coast. They don't want people from Jerusalem to meet with the Jerusalem because we can communicate. Understand? So that was a threat.
Really?
Understand? But and we are all Africans.
Actually, this story is a good kind of segue into that. So, We're talking from the 1600s.
1600.
Peter Cossin Brown was born in Brazil, and that's what we know about him. So, because he was born in Brazil, we don't know where he was born.
Even though it goes to
As a
Africa,
black man born in
Nigeria.
Brazil, at this time period, so he was born into slavery. That's all we know about him
Probably
when
Nigeria.
he shows up. I mean, it's hard. Well, we're going to talk a little bit later. The Dutch were very much in what is now the modern day DRC and Angola.
Yeah.
And spoiler, this lady's from Angola, so there was Nigeria. Yes, there's also a huge Dutch connection in the area that is not just the area that is now Ghana, but the area that's now the DRC and Angola. But so what we know about Peter, again, this is Mark Ponte, who's looking at the notarial records. He shows up as a sailor, and he's a sailor for the West India Company. So you have to imagine what his experience is like on these ships. And he does something that a lot of sailors do, which is he comes here, he lives with the landlord, he grows an exorbitant debt. All the sailors did this. And then and then he goes to the West India Company, he signs something saying, I owe my landlord this, please pay my landlord. But at least from the records that Mark has posted, it's different landlords in different places. So maybe I'm projecting, but I sort of get the image of someone who's kind of bouncing around, who doesn't really have roots or something that looks like home. And then in November of 1649, this Moses and Aaron church, it was a hidden church. It wasn't a big, it wasn't the big facade that we see now. It was just these two little houses that have been turned into a church. And he goes into that church with a woman named Lisbeth Peters. Lisbeth Peters is from Angola. We don't quite know how she got here, but we know in 1649 she was working as a servant in one of the nearby houses. And after they get married, for the next 10 years, Lisbeth and Peter show up again and again in the church records as godparents, as baptismal witnesses, as marriage witnesses. So what I see here, and I'm guessing from a few facts that we have, but first of all, I see Lisbeth kind of taking over the role that we saw Francesca doing earlier as kind of the center of the community. And I see in Peter something that we see a lot today, that people come here from all over the world and they find their way to this little tiny community that feels like home. And that's something I love about Amsterdam, is there's all these tiny communities where we find our way home. And so I hope that's what this is. I don't know, but I think that's what this is.
Netherlands are trading and trading started from South
Yeah. It was the first bank.
Yes. Yes.
Importers, ports, all those.
Exactly.
Everything about business. They are the father of
Yeah.
the war.
Yeah.
The war.
And even before,
Absolutely.
or even I would say alongside the trading.
Coast of Africa.
Moroccan traders.
Aksum, I'm talking about Aksum, which was an Ethiopian, it's an African kingdom. They actually find their gold coins in India and China. So please don't say that they're the best traders. Don't do that, because it's a part of our programming that we take in. Like we're also saying, oh, the Portuguese found a way to go to India. It had been there for ages. They actually brought giraffes over from Kilwa Island, which is in the front of Kenya, to the Emperor of China. 1400s.
1400.
So before,
Okra.
Also, 1658 from Suriname, the first opera came here in Hortus Botanica because I was Botanica. The first opera 1658. They brought the first
that's why we must know our history.
in
That's why I do my work.
in Hortus Botanica.
And we are all schooled. We are all schools. Also on the continent, we are all schooled with the ideology of the European.
Exactly.
And we must think about what they say. Take the way out of our ears before we can hear our own stories.
That's a beautiful way of
And they didn't come with the right education anyway.
Excuse me?
They did not come with the right education.
No. No, but listen, why should they teach you about yourself when they want you to be a pawn in their machine?
Yeah, they will. They
We
will.
need to stop.
They're just teaching us abstracts. P1, V1 equals to P2. What is that?
Not civilized. You understand?
I'm going to keep us walking.
Okay.
The high priest of Egypt. And the high priest of Egypt is somebody who was getting schooled for 40 years. Not for 10 years, not for 20 years.
You mean in order to become high priest?
To become the high priest. And you will always recognize him when he had the head of the cheetah on his
Okay, shoulder.
and the legs. Yes.
Thank you. I'll look for that. I hadn't heard that.
And not only that, across the street from the verse, there's also a very big house that's also with the symbols of thought, Djibouti, who is the god of knowledge. And the house from Athena, here in this city.
My goodness.
So normally we do this. Normally we do this looking at the Carré, but because it's raining, we're gonna just do this here. Yeah. So I hope you guys. I don't know how to say it.
Nina Simona.
Nina.
Right?
Yeah. Nina Simone.
Nina Simona.
So what a lot of people don't know about her story is that it's tied into Amsterdam.
Yeah.
So I know, right? So I was listening to Nina Simone for years before moving here, and I had no idea. But so she had kind of started to make a career as a blues singer, and then she saw what was happening in Mississippi, the civil rights movement. Exactly. So she wrote Mississippi Goddamn, and she went to RCA, which was her record label, and wanted to release it. And they were like, oh no, you cannot release that here. So just as so many people throughout history have done, she came to Amsterdam, Philips Records, because again, this is something that I'm sure you're aware of. We're very good at releasing things that criticize other people. We're very good at other people's cultural critique. So she released Mississippi Goddamn on Philips Records, and she actually found Amsterdam to be rather a good fit for her. So even at the height of her fame, she would come back here again and again and again. As you may know, right? So she made friends with this Amsterdamer named Kurt. Like the pictures of him are kind of funny. He was like a little bit of a hippie. And as you may know, a little bit later in her life, Nina ran into some mental health issues. I had heard that, but I hadn't heard that Kurt, her friend from Amsterdam, actually went down to Liberia, brought her here to a hospital in Nijmegen that helped her get stable, helped her get steady, and she actually moved to Amsterdam with the intention of spending the rest of her life in Amsterdam. Right? I didn't either. I'm sorry? I thought she died from so she didn't stay in Amsterdam. She ended up moving to Paris. She died in Paris. But personally, I am proud of Mississippi Goddamn was such an important anthem of the civil rights movement. I'm really proud of the fact, if I can say that it was released here, that if it wasn't for Philip Records, if it wasn't for, again, like the Dutch are much more willing to criticize
somebody else, not me.
I know, but still, this was really important. So
this is what everybody did. I mean, all those, like Descartes and all those people came here because they could publish their work, in
for
the Netherlands.
centuries. You could publish stuff here that you couldn't publish in other places. So we're going to have to kind of skip a couple things, but we're going to go that way to get to Mentora.
Thank you.
Do you know him?
This is from the festival.
Yeah.
I know him.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
I know him. Yeah.
I'm going to use...
South Africa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to use the names. So I read a lot of what his friends wrote about him. So I'm going to use names and pronouns the way his friends did. So, William Raymond Matanaya was born in the Port Alfred township of South Africa. Today, that's the Nelson Mandela township, but when Raymond was born, Nelson Mandela was only 8 years into his prison on Robben Island. So Raymond was born into really strict apartheid.
Wow.
He was incredibly lucky. He got into the Soweto School for the Performing Arts. And from the Soweto School for the Performing Arts, he found this kooky American group called Upwood People. Have you heard anything about this? Oh my goodness. So it's this hippie group. Let me know if we need to move. It's this hippie group that's trying to bring about world peace by having international performers do international tours. So Raymond got to be part of this group. So he goes all over the world. And he gets a really good event management because they're kind of doing everything. So he lands in Amsterdam. He's living in the Mercatorplein, but he quickly found his way here to a bar called Café de l'Elabel, which is right on the... You guys are awesome. In Café de l'Elabel, he develops Miss Tandy. Miss Tandy is a drag persona based on South African divas.
Okay.
And I want you to imagine, they don't have in the 1990s Netherlands, there is no awareness of South African divas. And Miss Tandy's performances were described as infectious joy.
Wow.
I found a review that said, I have never seen an audience spontaneously break into 3-part harmony, but I'm told something special always happens when Miss Tandy. Wow. So, Raymond just electrified the scene. He also was like, wait a second, there's a bunch of Africans living here. Why is there no African music in the Netherlands? So he started a band called Afro Vibes. And from there, he developed Afro Vibes into a festival.
Wow.
It started as, you know, as one day in the Rhoda Hood. And now it's a multi-week festival. It happens all over the country. I know, right? It's a massive festival that Raymond started. Unfortunately, as you may be able to guess from his dates, he was already sick when he got here. This is kind of a performing legend. This is how a lot of actors say they'd like their last day to go. He had this electric performance at the Cosmo Theater on the Ness, but his liver was breaking down. So every time he went on stage, he was lying down in pain, and then he'd just go back on stage and just, His partner, eventually after the show, his partner brought him to the hospital, and he died at the hospital. Raymond's legacy lives on not just in Afro Vibes, although that's a really, really important thing. He's also... Oh, it is. I looked on the website.
Okay.
I don't think they mentioned Miss Tandy on the website, but his name is on the website. His friends got together and created a foundation in his name, and to this day that foundation gets scholarships for kids from the Nelson Mandela Township to go to the Soweto Performing Arts School. Any questions or responses to Raymond?
I never heard about it.
Yeah, Miss
I know
Tundi.
about the
You know about the lullaby? Yeah.
Miss Tundi, I knew Miss Tundi, but not
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
cool.
he had also he performed in the IT.
Yeah.
Matulela Queens, those girls, they were also always on the festival.
Yeah.
When is the next festival? I've never...
It's coming up. It's like
When?
October, early October.
Here in Amsterdam?
Everywhere. It's all over the country. Oh, that I don't know. People here already know who he is, but because not everyone knows who he is, I just wanted to stop.
Oh, I know this guy.
So, yeah, you said earlier you didn't know who he was. That's why we're talking about him.
I know him.
Everybody knows him.
Everybody knows him.
Larry said at the beginning he didn't know who he was.
Yeah, I forgot the name,
You
yeah.
see him, you know him.
But every Suriname people know him.
Everybody knows him.
A grandmother, a grandfather.
Do you know who he is?
Yes.
You obviously know. Do you know who he is? Or shall I tell? Okay, so there's so much to say about him, and you guys are going to have to forgive me. I'm just going to talk about the activism. I know there's so much more to him, but forgive me. We got to keep rolling. So not only is he like really the heart of his community, there are so many people who refer to him as uncle. There's like this massive network. Like every time I tell these stories for Amsterdammers, someone, it's not usually everyone, but usually someone knows him because he's been such an impactful person. And on top of that, he really did so much as an activist. In 2013, these are just a couple of the highlights. In 2013, Amsterdam was celebrating 150 years since the end of slavery. And he said, wait a second, that's what I learned in school too. That's what all these young people I'm mentoring are learning in school. But slavery didn't actually end in 1863.
Absolutely not.
Enslaved people, I know you guys, I'm preaching to the choir. Enslaved people had to work another 10 years to pay for their own freedom. So he developed the 1873 campaign.
Yeah.
And 1873, it was so...
Yes,
yes. I know, this is my prized possession. I didn't get to meet Paris, so someone heard me tell this story and gave it to me, so this is like my treasure. But he was really clever in how he did this. He did the Memre Waka, which, I'm sorry, I know my Saran and Togo is not great.
Memre Waka. Memre Waka. No, Memre. Memre Waka.
Memre Waka. So this is a walk that's done through the canal belt to the mayor's house to bring attention, like we were talking about earlier, to how many buildings in Amsterdam were built on slave money, on money from the slave trade. And now there's a plaque in front of the mayor's house saying this house was built on money from the slave trade. Slavery in the slave trade was an offense against humankind. But so he does the Memre Waka.
You're getting better.
As soon as he gets there, he gives one of the hats to the mayor. So that it's a stark image and picture. I know you guys want to celebrate 150 years, but it's not 150 years. Slavery did not end in 1863 because enslaved people had to work 150 years. He did so many clever things. He, in order to protest against Spartacus, which is a racist caricature that's been attached more recently than people think. This is a very recent edition.
Absolutely.
It's a 19th century edition.
Absolutely.
But because to protest this, he was actually part of a group that filed a petition to stop Amsterdam from giving a parade for him. The permission for them to
Yes.
And this was really important because it brought it into the public eye. It actually had a public debate. And one of the facetious arguments is like, oh, it's for the kids. And so Paris actually, in this interview with the city council, talked about the damage that had done to him as a kid. And he said, this isn't for the kids because it's hurting some of them. And I could go on and on. He did so much. But one more thing, because you guys know I'm a Black history nerd. It was discovered that in the Jewish cemetery outside of the city.
Oh yeah, he used to talk a lot about Eliezer. I remember one time I met him when we used to do the radio program, and he was telling me about Eliezer. That's the first time I heard about him.
He set up
He was a unique guy, actually.
And created a big public precedent around setting up the statue.
Oh,
so in addition to being the heart of so many communities, he was also an incredibly effective activist.
And it was the first free slave.
Yes, first free slave.
I will go every
he was
year.
buried.
Go with the boat.
Also was he was buried. He was the only free slave buried in the Jewish cemetery.
So these are the only people, the only Black sitters that we can identify from 17th century art. So the reason we're standing here is that this used to be a Jesuit church. And there's reference in one of the letters of Don Miguel de Castro to him going to a Jesuit church in Amsterdam. I can't prove that it was de Boom, but I think it was the only Jesuit church in Amsterdam, so I think that this is where he went. But this is an interesting story, and I think this kind of reflects what we were talking about earlier, about the way in which the Dutch entered this system, where this is thousands of years of history. These are people and kingdoms that have fought each other for centuries. And the Dutch were really, really proficient at going in and twisting the knife. So his uncle, first of all, I need to explain the names. So the Portuguese, this is where we're talking about the Kingdom of the Congo and the county of, you can see it written as Sono or Soyo. I'm going to say Soyo because that's the more modern day. Soyo is now an area in northern Angola. So I'm going to just say Soyo. If you can see it in the sources, it's both Sono and Soyo. The Portuguese came into this area in 1491, and they converted all of the nobility. So when you're reading about this, the powerful people, the people making decisions in this area, you're going to see Portuguese names.
Because they are converted, because if they didn't convert it, they would kill the village people. Yeah.
I can't speak specifically for this area. I have read that in general. I cannot speak specifically for this area.
Okay.
But I'm
But it was on the whole
Yeah.
meaning of.
for this area specifically, I can't speak to
Are you
it.
going to talk about the museum Garcia?
This is just a little bit before her time. So, okay, let me see if I can work her into the end.
Please do.
So,
As we're talking about heroes,
Yes.
she is a hero. She worked the Dutch against the Portuguese.
Oh, the Queen.
yeah. This is a little bit
Later.
later. But basically,
You must give us a history class sometime.
For quite some time, the Kingdom of the Congo had what we say county of Soyo as a dependent. His uncle wanted Soyo to be independent. So his uncle came first to Dutch Brazil, or excuse me, his uncle sent Miguel first to Dutch Brazil, and then to Vlissingen, and then to The Hague, and then to here, to try and get the Dutch to side with him against the Kingdom of the Congo. This was a little bit of a challenge because the Dutch had been working with the Kingdom of the Congo to get the Portuguese out of their area. So this is like a little bit of modern Angola, and so he actually did fairly well in that the Dutch didn't do anything. The Kingdom well, but no, they could have sided with the Kingdom of the Congo. The Kingdom of the Congo, this is actually King Garcia II, and he's actually known as Garcia the Great in some of the sources, because he really expanded the Congo. He got the Portuguese out of the Kingdom of the Congo. However, he also invaded Soyo in 41, 43, 46, can't remember if it's 49 or 50. And he invaded Soyo quite a few times. And if the Dutch had helped, Soyo probably would have been reabsorbed into the Congo. As it was, with the Dutch not doing anything except fighting the Portuguese, Soyo remained independent, and by the 1700s was not even taking part in the election of the Kingdom of the Congo. So, in some ways, like Don Miguel didn't get the Dutch to side with them, but in some ways he sort of achieved his mission. And what's interesting about, there's a couple things that are interesting about these paintings. One of them is that in Brazil, he had paintings done of them in their own dress. When he was coming, you probably have, yeah. When he was coming here, Director Maurits in Brazil gifted him these very fancy clothes to meet with the VOC in Vlissingen and the Dutch Republic government in The Hague. And that's what he's wearing in this, which there are so many debates, I'm not even going to say. There's a lot of arguments between very invested Dutch art historians about whether this was painted in Amsterdam or Middelburg, and who painted it. There's a lot of fighting about it. But there's a couple interesting things to notice. So, Pedro and Diogo, they're probably not servants in the, like they were part of his entourage, but in order to be sent on a diplomatic mission, like these guys aren't servants, right? These guys are high-ranking in and of themselves. But the way they're painted here, bareheaded and without cuffs, that would, like without, those white lace cuffs, that would read to a Dutch audience as a servant. Not as a slave, but it would read as a servant. You can see they're holding expensive goods, and this white fabric is so expensive, and this white fabric is such a flex because it takes so many man hours to get something that you wear around your neck white, that it's a way of showing I have power because someone is spending all day making this white. And you can see there's like pearl buttons on there. So it's an interesting contrast. But for the Dutch, at this time period, anyone with money wears a hat. And they wear a hat like this. So Don Miguel is very much invested in the signs of power that are used here in the Netherlands. And the other interesting thing is Dutch men at this time, long hair and facial hair. That was de rigueur. So it's really interesting that that's not, we don't know how much this is a choice, but it's really interesting that that's not what you see here. Right? Oh, it's a beautiful painting. And again, there are, like you saw in those other etchings that I showed you, we do have etchings and paintings and drawings of of Black people, not just in Amsterdam, but Black people in the Netherlands and in the Low Countries at this point. But we don't have the names of any of the sitters. This is the only 3 people where we have their names and we know who they are.
And also on the painting of Rembrandt, there's with a nachtwacht, and with a nachtwacht you have a small black boy standing beside somebody. Nobody notices it.
Weet je dat me nooit is opgevallen? I never noticed
There's a
that.
lot of debate and artistic fighting about it.
Who is that kid? Where did he came from? Blah blah blah.
Dat lukt me nooit zo vaak.
Alright,
Ik heb
so
altijd zo
I just
gelezen.
have to do a quick survey. We're running short on time. You guys know Elizabeth Sampson. Do you recognize both of these people? So it sounds like you all know Boy Curry was a resistance hero. He was part of a Caribbean student group that when the Nazis invaded, the entire group became a resistance cell. And we're not going to get to Anton de Combe, which is okay because you guys all know who Anton de Combe
Yeah,
is. But
I'm going to invite you for the celebration.
when I tell Anton de Combe's story, I will often use a quote from Boy Curry. Because Boy wrote back to his family and he said, I don't have a wife, I don't have children depending on me, if I don't take a stand, who will? Which I think is incredibly brave. And also when I talk about Anton, it's to talk about, I use that quote to talk about how brave Anton was to take that risk every single day for 5 years. So you guys, Boy Curry unfortunately was killed during his resistance fight. His sister Nydia ended up making a huge impact on Papi Amends. Do you know? Okay. I'm just going to say this in case there's anyone who doesn't know, but so Papi Amends is the language of... Well, there's Papi Mentu and Papi Mento, depending on where you are.
It's the same. It's the same. But the same on the Portuguese and on in the African. The African is Papi Mento. Papi Mento is the Portuguese speaking.
And because of that, often when you'll see it written in English, they'll say Papi Amends, just because they're trying to cover everything.
Yeah.
But to any extent, this is if you haven't heard it before, this is the language that's native to Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire. This is what people speak.
Yeah.
And Nydia she felt like it was getting siloed, that the language wasn't being used as a poetic language. So Nydia not only started writing plays and poetry, she also started translating Genet and Shakespeare and all of these. Yeah, exactly. Right? And one of my favorite things that she did is she performed here. Actually, I usually tell the story at the Nieuwe Kerk, but we're talking about something else at the Nieuwe Kerk. She did a performance here at the Nieuwe Kerk for the Queen, among others. And she used poetry in 4 different languages. So she did Papi Amends in Dutch and English and Suriname Tongo in order to really show the vibrancy of the language. And for a lot of Dutch people, it was their first time understanding Papi Amends.
Really?
Have you guys seen that?
No.
I always do that. And then, why are you? Because of her. Oh, that'll do it.
I'm going to kind of keep us going, so I just wanted to show you guys really quick, because we're not going to actually stop at the Lutheran church, but you guys were talking about Jürgen Schongelfeld. I'm sorry for my accent, but Jürgen, who is now the director at the Klein Comedy. So he ran this really cool project called Dutch Masters Reimagined, and in it, he had Black celebrities do images of Black people living here. So again, Jacob Rula is another an African who made a big impact here. He was born in Elmina, and his mother was a native woman named Java Botri. His father, Anthony, worked for the West India Company. And Jacob just seems to have been one of those kids that just is very business-minded from the beginning. Because even though he was younger, he was the youngest of 4, or not the youngest, but he was the youngest son. He kind of took over running the family. And at first he followed his father working for the West India Company. And then he was like, wait a second, these guys need produce real bad. So he set up farms outside of Elmina to then sell to the West India Company. And he got so wealthy doing this that the colonial government would actually ask him to loan them money. And the first time he was like, okay, fine. The second time he was like, are you kidding me? No. You're an entire government. Stop asking to loan money. And the colonial governor actually complained. He wrote back to Amsterdam complaining that this guy had the nerve to not loan them money. And so that's all we have in the records. But Jacob moved his entire family to Amsterdam not long after that. He set up a brickyard, which, as you know, in Amsterdam, oh, that's the wrong background for this. Normally I can just point to any nearby building and be, as you can see, having a brickyard in Amsterdam, quite profitable. And as a football fan, I just have to point this out. The person who plays Jacob in Jurgen's series is a man named Ruud Gullit.
Of course.
He is one of,
the
does everyone know who?
best footballers ever.
Thank you.
Ruud Gullit. Hallo.
Let me see.
Meneer Dale.
And it's him. It's him.
Yeah. He was not only one of only 3 Dutch men to win the Ballon d'Or, which is the highest honor in football. He played in Serie A in Italy at a time where there was a real problem with racism when he was in Italy, and he was really an effective advocate in knocking those barriers down. He did a reggae song. He dedicated his Ballon d'Or to Nelson Mandela, who at the time was still imprisoned. When Mandela was released, he gave him one of his awards. He didn't give him the Ballon d'Or, but he gave him one of his awards. And I have to say, as someone who moved here just recently, it's so funny to see the pictures of Ruud Gullit in his youth. And then to see him on TV. On TV, he's like such a dad now.
How was this ago? Not 10 years?
Not long ago.
That's not long ago. So she did the 5 years. They look like that now.
It was already part of the cultural milieu when I moved here, or at least by 2018 it was already part of the milieu. So I think it was an ongoing project at least. So we're running out of time, so we're gonna walk down. Oh, I'm Elizabeth. I'm from Badass Tours.
Thank you.
I'm Peggy Ann, born in Suriname, living in Amsterdam.
Thank you.
I'm Linda, live in Amsterdam.
Thank you.
I'm Benji, the cultural pathfinder.
Thank you.
I'm Shirley, living in Amsterdam
Shirley.
for a long time.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm Amba Henna Kamlika Cherry from Africa to Suriname, now living in Amsterdam. OABC. OABC.
Yeah.
Yes.
My name is Mildred Del Prado.
Mildred, wow.
And I'm from Suriname and I live for so many long in Amsterdam.
Wow, beautiful. Yes.
I'm Kirian. I'm from Nigeria. I'm living here in the Netherlands.
Thank you.
I'm here in Tokyo. I'm living here in the Netherlands. I'm from Nigeria.
Larry Dorkano. Live in Amsterdam, married to Dorkano.
Okay.
Come from Ghana, but live here in Amsterdam for many years already.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.